The health inspector called me before he even filed his report. He sounded uncomfortable. "Mr. Freeman, I just did the inspection at your restaurant. But your son met me at the door. He told me you don't own it anymore, that he's the sole owner now, and that you're not allowed on the property. I checked the county records before I called. The land, the building, and the trademark are all still in your name. Somebody's lying to me, and I don't think it's the 70-year-old. I gripped the phone. My own son had just locked me out of the restaurant I built from nothing. And he had no idea I still held every card that mattered. Welcome back to The Forgotten Parent. Grab your coffee, get comfortable, and remember, the people in these stories had every chance to do right by the ones who raised them. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to want to stay till the end. My name is Otis Freeman. I am 70 years old. I live in Kansas City, Missouri. I wear an old apron that still smells like hickory smoke. My arms are covered in little burn scars from 40 years at the pit. I drive a delivery van with my restaurant's name faded on the side. People see a tired old cook who probably works for somebody else. They do not know they are looking at the whole reason that somebody has a paycheck. Let me tell you about Freeman's Pit. It is a barbecue joint on the east side. Nothing fancy. Wooden booths, paper towels on the tables, a line out the door on Saturdays. I opened it in 1984 with money I saved washing dishes. I built the smoker myself out of an old oil drum. I developed the rub and the sauce over 10 years of trial and error. That sauce is famous now. People drive 3 hours for it. And the recipe lives in exactly one place. My head. I never wrote it down. Not once. Let me tell you how it started. I was a dishwasher at a steakhouse. 26 years old. Broke, but I could taste things. I could taste a sauce and know what was missing. On my days off, I smoked meat behind my apartment. I burned a lot of it. I ruined a lot of cheap cuts. But I kept at it. Odessa believed in me before anyone else did. She said, "Otis, your food makes people close their eyes. That's a gift. Build something with it." So we did. We scraped together $900. We rented a tiny storefront with a leaky roof. I built the smoker out of a 55-gallon drum and some scrap steel. It is still out back. I still use it. That old drum has smoked more meat than most restaurants serve in a lifetime. The first year, we barely made rent. Some nights we ate the unsold brisket for dinner because we could not afford groceries. But people started coming back. Then they brought friends. Then the line started. The sauce took 10 years to perfect. 10 years. I adjusted it batch by batch. A little more vinegar here, a touch more smoke there. Odessa was my taster. She would close her eyes and tell me the truth. "Not yet, Otis." Then one day in 1994, she closed her eyes and she cried. "That's it," she whispered. "That's the one. Don't ever change it." I never did. I never wrote it down either. I keep it up here, in my head, exactly the way Odessa tasted it that day. It is the last thing of hers I can still make with my own hands. I built that place with my late wife Odessa. She ran the register and the front of house. I ran the pit. We were a team for 35 years. We raised our son Julian in a booth in the back corner, doing his homework while the brisket smoked. Odessa passed 3 years ago. Losing her took something out of me. I got slower. I got tired. And I made a decision that a grieving man makes. I decided to lean on my son. Julian is 38. He is smart, business school smart. When Odessa died, he came to me with a plan. "Dad, let me take over the business side. The paperwork, the money, the modern stuff. You just focus on the pit. Let me carry the weight." I was exhausted and heartbroken. It sounded like a gift. So I agreed. I gave him access to the accounts. I made him the manager. I trusted my son with the front of the house while I stayed in the back with my smoke and my grief. At first it was fine. Julian was good at the business. He set up the online ordering. He got us on the delivery apps. Sales went up. I was grateful. I told myself I had raised a good son who was taking care of his old man. I did not see what was happening underneath. A grieving man does not look closely. He just wants to believe someone has him. That is exactly the moment the wrong person strikes. Grief leaves the door unlocked. I should have seen it coming. Julian was always a little ashamed of the pit. As a teenager, he did not tell his fancy friends his family ran a barbecue joint. He said we were in the restaurant business, like we owned something grand. He wanted status. He wanted clean and modern and impressive. The smoke smell in his clothes embarrassed him. The burn scars on my arms embarrassed him. He loved the money the pit made. He was ashamed of the pit that made it. Odessa used to worry about that in him. He doesn't see the soul of it, Otis, she would say. He only sees the numbers. I told her he would grow into it. I was wrong. He grew away from it. He went to business school and learned a language where everything is an asset to be maximized. He came home seeing our life's work as an underperforming brand. Not a home. Not a legacy. A brand. That word should have warned me. It did not. I was too proud of my educated son. Then Julian started changing things. Small things first. He changed the sign out front. He took my name, Freeman's Pit, and rebranded it J. Freeman Modern Beabrick. He said the old name was dated. He redid the menu. He raised the prices. He got rid of the wooden booths I built and put in cold metal tables. He was erasing me and Odessa from our own restaurant, one piece at a time. And he did it all with a smile, telling me it was for the future. He even took down the photo of Odessa at the register. "It's a little morbid, Dad," he said. That was the day I started watching him closely. I let some of it go. Times change. Maybe the boy knew the modern market. But then he crossed a line. He tried to change the sauce. My sauce. The one people drive 3 hours for. He wanted to bottle a cheaper version to sell in stores, made with a factory recipe, and slap the Freeman name on it. "Dad, your recipe's not scalable. This new one's good enough. Nobody will know the difference." I told him no. Firmly, that sauce is Odessa and me. It is 40 years of our life. It is not for sale to a factory. He did not like that answer. That was when Julian's real plan showed itself. He could not have the sauce or the business as long as I was around saying no. So he decided to push me out entirely. He started telling the staff I was retired. He told them not to take orders from me. He changed the locks on the office. He told our vendors to deal only with him. He was staging a quiet takeover of the restaurant I built, and he thought I was too old and too sad to stop him. I noticed. Grief had slowed me, but it had not blinded me. I saw the new locks. I saw the staff avoid my eyes. I heard the whispers. And something in my chest went very still and very clear. That cold, quiet feeling I get at the pit when the fire is wrong and I know it before the smoke even changes color. My son was trying to steal my life's work. And he was doing it while I mourned his mother. That is a particular kind of cruelty. The kind that uses your own broken heart against you. Then I overheard him on the phone in the office. He did not know I was in the storeroom. Once the old man's fully out, Julian said, "I sell the modern brand to the restaurant group. They want 12 locations. The Freeman name is worth a fortune. He'll get a little buyout, enough to keep him quiet, and I keep the rest. He doesn't even understand what any of it's worth." Then he laughed. And that laugh finished settling the cold thing in my chest into a hard, clear stone. Here is what Julian did not understand. When I made him manager, I never gave him ownership. Not of the land, not of the building, not of the business entity, and most of all, not of the trademark. The name Freeman's Pit and everything tied to it was registered to me, personally, back in 1991. Odessa insisted on it. Protect the name, Otis, she always said. The name is the whole thing. I listened to my wife. So while Julian was busy rebranding and scheming, he was building his empire on land he did not own, under a name he did not control, selling a sauce he did not have. If you've made it this far, do us one quick favor. Subscribe. A lot of people watch without ever doing it. But it costs you nothing and means everything to us. Thank you genuinely. Now let me tell you how an old pitmaster smokes out a thief. When the health inspector called and told me Julian had locked me out and claimed sole ownership, I did not storm down there and make a scene. An angry old man is easy to dismiss. Instead, I got quiet and I got organized the way I am when I am prepping for a big weekend. First, I called my lawyer, a careful man named Theo who had handled my paperwork for 30 years. Otis, he said, your son doesn't own a napkin down there. Everything's yours. The land, the building, the LLC, the trademark. He's a manager. You can remove him with a signature. But let's do it right. Let's make it airtight. I told Theo to get everything ready and to wait for my word. Then I did what I do best. I got copies of every document proving my ownership. The deed, the trademark registration, the business filings, all in my name, clean and clear. Then I started paying attention to what Julian was actually doing. I discovered he had already been quietly talking to that restaurant group. He had shown them mock-ups of J. Freeman barbecue locations. He had promised them my sauce recipe, a recipe he did not have and could not get. He was selling something that was not his, based on a secret that lived only in my head. I also started carrying a little recorder in my apron. An old cook fumbling with his apron strings is invisible. Nobody watches the man by the smoker. And Julian, arrogant Julian, could not stop talking when he thought I was just a sad old fixture in the back. He bragged about the restaurant group deal. He talked about the buyout he would give me to keep me quiet. He mentioned the factory sauce. He confessed his whole plan, piece by piece, while I tended the brisket and said nothing. He was seasoning his own downfall. Patience is the whole art of barbecue. You cannot rush smoke. You put the meat on, and you wait. Hours and hours, low and slow. If you rush it, you ruin it. I have spent 40 years learning to wait by that pit. So waiting out my son was not hard for me. It was just another long smoke. I tended my fire. I let him think he was winning. And I let the truth cook, low and slow, until it was ready to serve. I learned things in those weeks that hurt. Julian had already forged my signature once, on a vendor contract. He had told the staff I was not mentally sharp anymore. He had even changed the emergency contact at the bank to himself. Each discovery was a small burn. But I did not flinch. A pitmaster is used to burns. You learn to keep your hands steady even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. That is when steady hands matter most. Theo, my lawyer, had everything ready to go. Say the word Otis, and Julian is out with one signature, he told me. But I asked him to wait. I did not just want Julian removed. I wanted the whole scheme stopped, publicly in front of the very people he was lying to. A quiet removal would let him spin a story. A public reckoning would end it for good. Theo understood. You're going to let him set his own table, aren't you? He said. Theo, I told him, I'm going to let him light his own fire. Then I'm going to let it burn. I want to be honest about the hardest part. There was a night Julian stayed late, and for a moment he was not the schemer. He was just my boy, sitting in the back booth where he did his homework as a child. He looked around the restaurant and said, quietly, I miss Mom. And my heart nearly broke. I almost went to him. I almost said, Son, whatever you're doing, stop, let's grieve her together and run this place the way she'd want. I almost handed him everything just to have my boy back. But then he pulled out his phone and started texting the restaurant group about my sauce. and I knew. He did not miss his mother. He missed what her name was worth. That was the moment I stopped hesitating. My son had used his own mother's memory as a prop while he sold her legacy behind my back. So I finished my prep, the ownership documents, the trademark, the recordings, the evidence of his secret deal. I had it all. And I decided where to serve it. Not in a lawyer's office, not in a quiet meeting. I would do it at the restaurant, in front of the staff and the very restaurant group Julian was trying to sell to. Because Julian had scheduled a big meeting there, a meeting to show off his restaurant to the buyers. He set the table himself. I just showed up with the truth. The day of the meeting came. Julian had the restaurant looking sharp. The restaurant group executives sat in a big booth, all suits and smiles. Julian stood before them, presenting J. Freeman Modern Burbuck like a king showing off his kingdom. He had slides. He had projections. He had a whole speech about the 12 locations and the bottled sauce. He did not see me come in through the kitchen, in my old apron, smelling of hickory smoke. He was too busy selling my life to notice its owner walk in. I stood in the kitchen doorway and listened for a while. It was a strange thing, hearing my son sell my life to strangers. He was good at it. Smooth, confident, he talked about brand heritage and authentic story while standing in a room he had stripped of everything authentic. He talked about the founder's legacy as if the founder were dead, not standing 20 feet away in an apron. He had erased me so completely in his own mind that he forgot I could walk. I waited until he got to the part about the sauce. And the crown jewel, Julian said, is our famous Freeman sauce, which we'll be bottling and scaling nationwide. That is when I stepped out of the kitchen. That's funny, son, I said in front of everyone. Because the Freeman sauce recipe has never been written down. It exists in exactly one place. My head. And I haven't given it to anybody. The room went silent. Julian spun around, his face draining of color. The executives looked confused. Who is this? One of them asked. My name is Otis Freeman, I said. I built this restaurant in 1984. I created that sauce over 10 years at that pit right there. And I own everything in this building. I nodded to Theo, who had come in behind me. He set the documents on the table. The land, the building, the business, and the trademark Freeman. All registered to me, personally, and only me. This young man is my son. He is a manager. He owns nothing here. Nothing he has promised you is his to sell. The executives began reading the documents. Their smiles disappeared. Julian stood frozen. Then I laid down the recordings, and in case you think this is a family misunderstanding, I said, here is my son explaining his plan to push me out and sell you a company he doesn't own, along with a sauce he was going to fake in a factory. I pressed play. Julian's voice filled the restaurant. He'll get a little buyout to keep him quiet, and I keep the rest. He doesn't even understand what it's worth. The executives closed their folders. One of them stood up. Mr. Freeman, he said to me, I apologize. We had no idea. We don't do business like this. And they walked out. Julian's 12-location empire walked right out the front door. Julian tried to save it. He always could talk. Dad, wait, we can still do this together, it's a good deal. Just listen, but I held up my hand. The staff had gathered in the doorway. The cooks. The servers. The dishwasher, a kid just like I was. They were watching. Son, I said quietly, you were going to sell these people's jobs to strangers. You were going to bottle your mother's sauce in a factory. You were going to lock your own father out of the only home he has left. There is no together in that. There is only what you tried to take. He had no answer. For the first time in his life, Julian had run out of words. He looked around the restaurant, the cold metal tables he installed, the modern sign with his name on it, and he saw, maybe for the first time, that he had built all of it on top of something he did not own and did not understand. The whole modern brand was a house built on my land, under my name, selling my secret. Remove me, and it was nothing. It was always nothing without me. He just could not see it until it collapsed in front of the buyers. Now here is where I want you to understand the kind of man I am. Julian did not poison me. He did not raise a hand to me. His crime was greed and betrayal, ugly ones, done at the worst possible time. But it was not violence. So I did not call the police to arrest my own son. I did not want to destroy him. I wanted to stop him and to make him face what he had done. And I had. His deal was dead. His scheme was exposed. His lie was over. That was proportional. That was enough. But I did not let it slide, either. I removed Julian as manager that same day, with a signature, exactly as Theo said I could. I changed the locks back. I took my name off his cold metal tables and put my wooden booths back in. And I told my son the hardest thing a father can say. You are not welcome in this restaurant right now. Not because you failed. Because you tried to steal it from me while I was grieving your mother. When you understand why that was wrong, all the way down, come find me. Until then, this pit is closed to you. Julian left. He did not speak to me for 8 months. I ran Freeman's pit myself again, slower but steady, with the good staff who stayed. The wooden booths came back, the old sign went up, the line returned on Saturdays. People were glad to have the real thing back. Turns out folks could tell the difference between a legacy and a logo. They always can. You cannot fake 40 years of smoke. It is in the walls. It is in the sauce. It is in the hands that make it. Then, one slow Tuesday, Julian walked in. He stood in the doorway a long time. Then he came back to the pit, where I was working, and he did something he had not done since he was a boy. He picked up an apron and tied it on. "Teach me, Dad," he said, his voice breaking. "Not the business. The pit. I want to learn to make it right. The real way. Your way." I looked at my son for a long moment. Then I handed him a pair of tongs. "First lesson," I said. "You don't rush the smoke. It takes as long as it takes. Just like everything else worth having." Julian has been learning at the pit for a year now. His fancy business degree does not help him there. The fire does not care about projections. He burned 3 briskets before he got one right. He cried over the first good one. He is learning patience, the thing money never taught him. He is learning that some things cannot be scaled, or bottled, or rushed. Some things you build slow, with your own scarred hands, over a whole lifetime. He is learning to be a Freeman. Not the name on a logo, the name on the pit. The first morning he came back, he asked me why I never just called the police on him, why I gave him another chance at all. I thought about it a long time. "Because your mother would have," I said. "Odessa believed people could change if you gave them a reason and a door. You are my son. I will always leave the door open, but you have to be the one to walk through it, and you have to come in through the kitchen, not the boardroom." He nodded. He understood. He comes in through the kitchen every day now. He put Odessa's photo back at the register himself. He did it quietly, before I got in one morning. When I saw it, I had to step out back and collect myself. My boy, who called her picture morbid, hung it back with his own hands. That is when I knew he was really coming home, not to the business, to the family, to his mother's memory, to the smoke and the scars and the slow, honest work. The money never mattered. It was never about the money. It was about whether he could see the soul of it. He is finally starting to see. I still have not given him the sauce recipe. He knows he has to earn it. He knows I will only pass it to someone who understands what it really is. Not a product. A promise. Odessa's promise and mine to make something honest and good and share it with anyone who walks through the door. When Julian understands that all the way down, the recipe is his. He is getting close. I see it in how he treats the customers now. I see it in how he tends the fire. The boy who wanted to bottle our legacy is learning to live it instead. People ask me if I was tempted, ever, to just take the buyout money and retire. 12 locations, a national brand, my name everywhere. I could have been rich. But I think about what I would have traded for it. The wooden booths where Julian did his homework, Odessa's photo at the register, the old drum smoker out back, the line of neighbors on Saturday who greet me by name. You cannot bottle that. You cannot scale it. The moment you try, it is gone. I did not build a brand. I built a home. And you do not sell your home. These days, I still wear the old apron that smells like hickory. My arms still catch new little burn scars. I still drive the van with the faded name on the side. People still think I am just a tired old cook. Let them. There is power in being underestimated. My own son forgot who I was because I got quiet in my grief. He mistook a morning man for a finished one. He learned, in front of the buyers he tried to impress, that the old cook by the pit owned every brick, every booth, and the one secret nobody could steal. I visit Odessa every Sunday after church. I tell her how the restaurant is doing. I told her about Julian and the buyers and the recording. I told her how her insistence on protecting the name saved everything. I like to think she laughed her big, warm laugh. I told you, Otis, she would have said. The name is the whole thing. Protect the name. I did. Odessa, I protected the name, and it turned out the name protected our son right back by giving him a reason to come home and finally grow up. If you liked this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. And as always, thank you for being part of this family. And remember this, when you are grieving, when you are tired, when you want to lean on someone, be careful who you hand the keys to. The people who love you will carry your weight and give it back stronger. The ones who don't will use your weakest moment to take everything. Protect what you built, especially the part that lives only in your head.